Well, a happy Tuesday evening to all of you out there in this great big world that we call social media. This is, yes, Brother Dana coming to you from the absolutely frigid city of Chicago. And man, I cannot wait until the Most High Yah moves me out of this city because I cannot handle this cold anymore. But anyway, a special shalom to all of the precious people of the Most High Yah out there. I pray that you are encouraged. I want to share something from my heart tonight, and I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm just going to allow the Most High Yah to, hopefully give you some encouragement through this video tonight. So thank you to Maranda Curtis for bringing us to his throne
and be found giving God your best offering. What is your response to an amazing God? What is your response to an awesome God? What is your response to the healer? What is your response to the deliverer? So I'm going to ask you one more time. What is your response to our amazing God? And if that's your best offering, I'll leave it right there. But we serve an amazing God that deserves our best at all times. Oh, lift up your voices with we lift your name, Jesus. We honor your name, God.
For several years now, I have been fighting a foreclosure on my home. I fell behind as for about 8 years spanned. I lost my job. I lost my job because the school district found me out to be racist because I posted on my Facebook page a painting of the unjust execution of Trayvon Martin here in Chicago. And all of this was not a surprise. That situation was, but the journey that I was entering in for these 8 years was not a surprise to me because after all, on my way back from South Africa many years ago with my big sister Michelle McKinney Hammond, the Lord spoke one of the things that I would have to trust him as Peter did when he called him out of the boat and to walk on the water. And that I would also understand Lazarus being buried and feeling as good as dead and questioning where the Most High Yah is. And so when I lost my job and I couldn't get another job regardless of who I applied for, finally I did become a substitute teacher, but you only get paid when you work and it's not consistent. And so I fell behind, and one of the things I fell behind in was my mortgage. And the Most High Yah had blessed me with, $50-some thousand even during some of that season with grant money. But, it was only good for 1 year, and then it was good for 1 year. And I was on this journey for at least 8 years. And so it ran out. And so now, almost 3 years after those 8 years, I am dealing with, a lot of the piled up consequences of not having money and paying your bills. And one of those is for my home. But the story is so miraculous that this home was given to me because I lived in this neighborhood and lots and grants were given out to individuals that were willing to live in the neighborhood because the neighborhood was labeled as not a good place to live. And I love the neighborhood I live in, and I love my neighbors and the people I dwell with, because now I know they're the true chosen people of the Most High. So anyways, that ran out, and so now for the last 3 years I have been fighting foreclosure. And everything that I've tried to do to get a refinance, to borrow money, it did not work. It did not work. I would meet somebody, it would go forward, and then the door was slammed, and it did not work. And I was adamant that I did not want to file Chapter 7 because the only thing I owe, I don't have a car note, I don't have great big credit card debt, I don't own, boats, I don't own anything except for a car and my home, and I didn't want to file Chapter 7. I didn't want that on me, and I felt as if, Most High, intervened. And so a couple months ago, many of you know, if not, you will know now, that a little windstorm kind of came through and blew down the tree in my backyard, which then damaged some of my fence and in areas that I didn't know. And making this long story short, but painting a background to what I want to share tonight, is that my dog got out, and I, ran the streets for 6-7 hours, and now, a month and a half later, I've never found him. And so with some of that pain, and it leads you to the feet of the Most High Yah, to Yeshua HaMashiach. And now I was told by the judge that I have 3 months, and then my house will be put up for auction. And so you start thinking, maybe I just need to file bankruptcy. But then I want to be a man of faith. And I didn't want to do something out of fear, because fear is not how the Most High Yah wants us to operate. But now that the clock is really ticking, I was getting a little more anxious. But I had a dream some months ago that I had lost my way. And I was trying to get home. And I was in an airport, and I was running, trying to carry all this stuff. And one of the things I was carrying was a dog. And as I'm running through this airport, trying to find somebody to help me to take me home, I grew tired and weary, so I laid down the possessions that I was carrying. But I held on to my dog. And finally I got to this back, I don't even know what it is, but there was a vehicle, like a van with a U-Haul small little covered trailer. And when I talked to them about where I was going and stuff, they said, we will help you. But then they were stuck and they weren't able to get out. And so I got out of the vehicle and I motioned for them to turn and to swerve, and they got out. And when they got out, they said, now go back. I said, I got to go back and get my stuff and wait here for me. And they said, we will. And so I got back to the airport running and trying to find what I was looking for. And all of a sudden, this depiction of what traditionally I was taught God looked like, but also the depiction of the God that I feared. Old white man looking kind of scary with white beard and kind of. And when he came over and he said, son, let me help you, I was like, no. But I was like, who am I to judge? And so I said, okay, what? And he's like, follow me and I'll show you and take you where you need to go. And so he and I stepped onto this movable sidewalk. And before I know it, this movable sidewalk started taking off. And when I looked down, there were crocodiles and snakes and all kinds of things that brought fear. And I also recognized that I was standing almost on a 2x4 type of plank. And I thought to myself, this is dangerous. Why would it be this way? And as my anxiety and fear because of what I saw below me and what I was standing on began to rise up, I literally felt, even in my physical form during this dream, some hands that covered my eyes and grabbed my arm. And some of my friends that I surround with, my Hebrew families, they operate in gifts. And I happened just to share this dream thinking it was crazy. But that dream was the Most High Yah even preparing me for where I'm at this very moment. See, once all this stuff happened, on a Monday after I lost my dog on that Thursday, was having lunch with a friend. And this friend looked at me and said, Brother Dana, he said, why don't you sell your house? And it was at that moment something clicked. And it also clicked because on that Saturday, when my family was praying for me during the Shabbat service, one of the prophets texted my sister Arlene and said, please deliver this to Brother Dana. The Lord says, the Most High says, it's time. And when I received that on Saturday, I was hoping it was time that I finally would find my dog. But what it really was the Most High Yah telling me that it was time to leave the house. And that the doors that I was hitting that were being closed was because the Most High Yah wasn't asking me to remain here, but asking me to follow Him. Not going back to the people with my belongings, because see, I never found my belongings. The only thing I had with me at that time was my dog. And yet a few weeks ago, one of my dogs got away.
What is your response to an awesome God?
I put my house on the market.
What is your response to the healing?
Through one of the young men that I've mentored for years, linked me up with an incredible realtor that stepped in and put my house on the market on a Monday. And on that Tuesday, there was a viewing. And on that Wednesday, I had an offer. And I've also now gone and made an offer to another place that I'm going to have to do some work on. But taking the money that the Most High Yah is going to allow me to make on selling this house, which I believe is part of the reason they weren't willing to refinance, I'm able to have a lower monthly mortgage rate in a smaller place that frees me up to get to the next level of the Most High Yah's calling on my life. And so all of this reminds me of, and the reason why I want to come to you is because my greatest desire more than anything is to please the Most High Yah. And you know, white evangelical conservative Christianity told me, you know, to please Him, you need to make sure you do this and do this and do this. And look, I know He delights when my actions do the right thing, but I believe He's asking for more than just my actions, but my attitude and my spirit and my passion is to do the right thing, which is to serve Him by serving His people and by having faith. Because in Hebrews 11 chapter 6, but without faith it is impossible to please Him. For he that cometh to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. And so in this season, my little makeshift office here is being packed up. Most of my house is packed up. We're hoping to close on the 28th. But I've taken several blows that have knocked me a little bit, or almost tried to knock me off this plank that I was standing on. One night the blow came that there were all these liens on my mortgage, and that meant that I can't sell and that I'm going to lose it, and I lost my faith. Not only from the dream, but from a dream of another sister, and then the Most High Yah's words that came by its time. And I know His voice, because the word says that we know the voice of our shepherd, and we as sheep, when we know it, will follow no other. And yet at this moment I was doubting the Most High Yah when I was presented with these liens, which actually were the grants that the Most High Yah gave me to be able to afford to move into this house in the first place back in 2004, which was nothing but a miracle and was a blessing. But now it was my time to go. And so now, through some work in these last days, I've been able to remove all of those liens, because those grants have come to their fulfillment. Some of them just a couple years ago. And so in my absence, I will be gone or be, in a makeshift little cell phone video to speak to you, because the Most High Yah is moving me. But through this all, one thing that he has done is that he has strengthened my faith in the promises that he has for you and I. And that night when I doubted his word, when I got nervous and worried, I later sat down and kneeled, and I asked the Most High Yah to forgive me. Not because I felt him saying, shame on you, but because I know I broke his heart. Because at that moment, I believed the words of the adversary instead of believing the words of my Father. And that broke my heart, because it is my passion to please him. And my faith disappointed him, or at least disappointed me. And then I repented, because in my arrogance, I look at your ancestors. After all the great things the Most High Yah did in taking them from the hands of the Egyptians and now finding themselves in the wilderness, even through the departing of the Red Sea, in the wilderness, the word says in Hebrews 3:16 and 19 that, and with whom was he angry for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose bodies perished in the wilderness? And to whom God did swear that they would never enter the rest, if not to those who disobeyed? So we see that they were not able to enter because of their unbelief. And I used to think, if God did those things in my life, I would never doubt him again. But yet here in my own situation of the Red Seas that he has departed, I doubted him. And so not only did I apologize, I repented, and then I asked the Most High Yah to strengthen my faith. Because it is my passion and my desire to glorify him through my faith. And so I want to encourage my brothers and sisters out there that we serve a faithful Most High Yah. And that more than anything, it will be our desires as followers of him to please him with our faith. And with that, I'd like to take and just end our time with the scripture that I read tonight in my time with him. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the very word of the Most High Yah, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto the Most High a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, Yah testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because Yah had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony, that he pleased Yah. But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh unto Yah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek after him. Now by faith Noah, being warned of Yah of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is Yah. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child where she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in the multitude, and as the sand which is by the sea shore, innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly. Wherefore Yah is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Accounting that Yah was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come, and by faith Jacob, when he was a dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph, and worshipped, leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel, and gave commandment concerning their bones. And by faith Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. And by faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of the Most High Yah, than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. And by faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. And through faith he kept the Passover in the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. And by faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians were drowned. And by faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. And by faith the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. And what shall I say more? For the time would fall me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson and Jephthah, and of David also, and Samuel, and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword out of weaknesses, were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight
What is your response to an awesome God?
to fight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again, and others were tortured, not accepting deliverance that they might obtain a better resurrection.
So I'm going to ask you one more time.
And others had trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover of bonds and imprisonment.
We serve an amazing
They were
God
stoned,
that deserves our best
they were
at all
sawn
times.
asunder,
Oh, lift
were
up your
tempted, were
voices.
slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskin and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts, and in mountains, and in dens, and in caves of the earth. And these all, having obtained a good report through faith, yet received not the promise, Yah, having provided some better things for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Most High Yah, humble us and forgive us of the lack of times of our faith. That at times it is so easy to quickly hear the voice of our adversary, bringing doubt to you, our Father, to you who says you hold back no good thing of those that you love. Give us the perseverance we need to please you with our faith. Help us to grow. Help us to draw close to you and your Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. Give us a fine-tuning in our ears and in our spirit, in the natural and in the spiritual, discernment for those that are around us, to know and to hear your voice and to follow no other. Father, I want to lift up to you, Most High Yah, my fellow brothers and sisters that have reached out to me in any way, shape, or form that are broken right now. Some of them seeing themselves as failures, ready to give up. As you spoke to me, consider Lazarus when he laid on his bed of affliction and was told by his sisters that Yeshua had received the word that he was ill. And yet, in those days, maybe as he grew sick and more sick, I wonder what went through his head when his best friend, the man whom he loved, Yeshua HaMashiach, did not show up. And so, Father, I pray that those of us that are laying on that bed of affliction wondering where you are, have we offended you? Have we caused you to turn your back on us? I pray that you, Yeshua HaMashiach, would reach out and embrace them in your love and heal the broken hearts, the wounds, the regrets, the shame, the guilt, self-hatred. That you would build them up to know that they are your chosen individuals, and even the adversary that dwells in this country is coming to a very end in their power to keep them in a state of oppression and hopelessness. Father, please help us, Yeshua HaMashiach, please you with our faith. To please you with our faith. That it would be our passion to please you with our faith. So may we all grow in our faith. We here at One Love, the passion of my heart is to be found guilty of one thing, and that might be loving the unlovable too much. I really believe that the Most High Yah, who began the good work in us, is the one that's faithful to complete it. And yes, my heart's desire should always be to speak to those around me with an inner motivation to help seek, walk with them in their desire to seek the Most High and be healed. My young people are not being changed by the various rules and expectations that we have at the school. The young people I walk with are being transformed by the relationships of people that love them, that can help bring tools and words that bring healing to their brokenness. And when those young people experience that love, it changes their value system. Because they begin to realize that if they're not valuable to anybody else, they're valuable to their Creator. And if I can have the honor and the privilege of being a vessel, a servant of the Most High Yah to deliver that message to people, then may those who fault me for that very thing, loving people too much. Loving doesn't mean we don't correct each other. But our motivation in correcting each other should always be because you desire that person to be everything the Most High Yah called them to be. And the decisions they may be making is going to hurt them if it's not already. And because of my love for you, I don't want to see you hurt. Not because I despise what you're wrestling with, but because I despise how the enemy is trying to use that to keep you from wholeness and from healing. And that is why I know the Most High Yah led me into counseling. Because next month, and about a month from now, I will get my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
And we freely do it.
And we cannot overlook how the physical world has damaged our young people and damaged each of us. And when you recognize how easy we can be damaged, it gives you some empathy in walking with those that their brokenness is very evident in the things they say, the way they live, the things they do. But the only thing that has transformed me, yes, the law at some point controlled me, but what has really transformed me is experiencing the love in my journey with the Most High Yah, and diligently seeking after Him, and now feeling strengthened because He's taken me through things so that my faith can be strengthened so that I can please Him, which is the very desire and the passion of mine. So thank you, Most High Yah, and it's in your name that I and we humbly bow and say amen and hallelujah. So until we cross paths again, may you be blessed, and may others around you carry you in those seasons or those situations when your faith maybe isn't quite there. May we, as fellow Hebrew brothers and sisters, those who were grafted in or embraced in, such as myself, and those of you who are by blood, may we support and encourage one another so we can all come across that finish line. When the Most High Yah will look at us as He did upon His Son Yeshua HaMashiach, saying, "My children, well done, well done." So, I'll